Hello there. Well, the Scottish police are due to have a chat with an NHS whistleblower who has given them a dossier on Nicola Sturgeon. Well. A team from Police Scotland looking into the avoidable demise of people during the health emergency is now looking into calls for former SNP ministers to be prosecuted over the issue. And this comes after 3 NHS campaigners sent a file to the police relating to 3 areas of concern. With the Scottish Daily Express reporting, Roger Livermore and Rab Wilson of the Action for a Safe and Accountable People's NHS campaign were joined by brave whistleblowing nurse Leslie Roberts in filing the report at a police station in Glasgow. And they want to see the Scottish Government prosecuted and for both Nicola Sturgeon and the former Health Secretary Jane Freeman to be held personally accountable. And the 3 areas they point to are the policy of discharging elderly people from hospital and depositing them in care homes, issuing ineffective PPE to staff, and the widespread use of DNRs. Now, Leslie Roberts is reportedly going to be interviewed regarding her first-hand clinical experiences as an infection control nurse in Glasgow, something she calls a major step forward. Now, one of the disturbing things is that Ms. Roberts says she has evidence that care homes were forced to take infected patients in, or they were threatened with losing their funding. And another was that when she asked why their PPE was not adequate, she was told that it was down to not enough nurses expiring from it. And then there's the alleged blanket use of DNRs on those deemed vulnerable. All totally scandalous if true. Trump gets arrested tomorrow. Could it be Sturgeon by the weekend? Now, before I move on to the next problem with electric vehicles, Richard.
I miss Jeremy Corbyn being the leader of the Labour Party. And there's a reason. Now, you're probably thinking, you miss him because he made Labour unelectable. Well, there is an element of that, but that's not the reason. I miss Jeremy Corbyn because he is and was actually a man of principle. Now, I don't agree with his principles. I don't agree with hardly anything that ever came out of his mouth. However, he did believe in something. I don't agree with his liberal lefty kind of social justice panache, and I certainly don't agree with the way he treated a certain community within this country and prioritised in fact, he loved another community within this country, who probably kept him in his seat in Islington North. Yes, but if you compare a man like him to a man like Keir Starmer, what does Keir Starmer stand for? Please, what does he stand for? What are his principles? I don't see anything. I don't feel anything from him except this complete robotic blankness. And the same goes for Rishi Sunak. What does he stand for? The man is richer than the king. Does he stand for the working man? Does he stand for anything other than a globalist agenda? And Starmer the same. Where did he enjoy spending his time, Keir Starmer? At Davos. Oh yeah, what was he doing there? I think it's quite clear who these people are working for. Now, I know this is getting a bit repetitive maybe to some of you hearing this, but we need to keep on a daily basis reminding ourselves of who doesn't represent us and yet who controls us. Jeff.
And now another debacle with electric vehicles. It transpires that these wonderful new machines that you thought would be totally green and highly repairable and recyclable are nothing of the sort. According to the insurance industry, says the Telegraph, EV manufacturers are not sharing diagnostic data in case third-party mechanics botch any repairs, and if one of these vehicles is not powered down correctly, someone could get electrocuted. and the report cites one source saying that even a minor bump could see the vehicle getting scrapped. And it also turns out that there are very few mechanics in the UK qualified to get a battery out of a car, let alone mend one. That comes on top of the woeful state of EV infrastructure and a total lack of electrical power to turn our roads to pure electric. Not that there is any real plan to allow anyone who wants one to have an electric car, of course. That will have to be restricted to the wealthy and powerful only. The rest will be on the bus, the bike and the shoe leather. But the few smug EV drivers left will then find themselves being taxed to the hilt to replace lost fuel duties and VAT. And all this sits in exactly the same category as heat pumps. On the 20th of March this year, we heard that the government has set out its ambition to support the growth of the heat pump market to around 600,000 installations per year by 2028. That's very ambitious. Now, according to isoenergy.co.uk, a domestic air source heat pump should take around 3 to 5 days for a team of 2 to complete the plumbing works. An electrician will then spend approximately 3 days completing the electrical wiring and setting the system to work. And it goes on to say that a complete installation takes 2 to 4 weeks in the majority of cases. That all sounds very cheap, doesn't it? And would also tie up a sizable proportion of our plumbers and electricians, and they're already charging high prices due to there being a shortage of them. They're already out there doing all the basic stuff. But the government is still intent on forcing the pace, even if voluntary adoption is low amongst the population. Now, if all this electrical stuff worked and was as cheap as advertised, people would not need to be forced into adopting them or being bribed into adopting them. No, they would move seamlessly with the technology as they did with their telephones, radios, black and white TVs and colour TVs to the latest OLED thingy. Just a pity we'd already outsourced that lot to China, though. As Ross Clark said a few days ago in capex.co, at some point the government is going to have to be honest and admit that contrary to what they have been saying for years, net zero is not going to save you money. At that point it will have an unpalatable choice. Force us, cajole us into switching to electric cars, heat pumps and the like, or drop its 2050 target and allow technology to catch up to the point where it offers solutions which really do make economic sense. Yes, they're just making us poorer, making China richer, while not saving the planet. Richard.
So, let's take a look at the news headlines and see what pearls of wisdom the media wishes to impart upon the psyche of the masses and mould you all into good little citizens. The Independent reads, grooming groups of people, you know who I mean. These grooming of people don't just come from one ethnic background, the Tories have been warned. The Sun tells us Strictly's Katia Jones responds to ex-husband Neil's shock engagement and baby news with Love Island's China Mills. People, this is what the news headlines are today. How dumbed down have we become as a society? I would rather drink my own pee-pee than read any further of that nonsense. But more on that level from the Daily Mail, which states Carol Vorderman's 5 special friends. Star 62 says her relationships with different men work because she doesn't want to be in love and isn't a jealous person. There used to be a word for ladies like that. I can't remember what it is now, but it was certainly most complimentary. Yes, oh yes. Also in the Mail, outrage as inhumane Sweden deports bedridden Alzheimer's sufferer, 74 years of age, and separates her from her family just because her passport has expired. Honestly, words fail me, Sweden. You were more than happy to open your doors to a certain demographic of incomers who have destroyed your country and culture. Yet you would kick out a vulnerable old lady in the most appalling way. Shame on you, Sweden. And finally, in the Mirror, there is a bit of a challenge, you know. And the challenge is, as states, you have a high IQ if you can spot the hidden goat among the sheep in 11 seconds. Let's give this a go. I'll have a look at my phone. I've got it ready here. Anyway, what do you think about the demographic of these grooming you-know-whats? Sweden's appalling decision. Carol Vorderman's actually just forget it and don't say nothing about the Katia Jones bit too. I don't want to know. If you leave a comment on that, I will be most disappointed. And let me know if you can tell the difference between a goat and a sheep. Anyway, we will see you again tomorrow at 5:45. 5:45. 5:45 for your daily dose of Jeff. And I